Okay, Jeff, it's on to the jumbo. Alright, so we've got some, what look like perhaps Seiko service marks, maybe, and some other marks in the case back. So this is a 6138, of course, and your automatic winding components here are from a 6139, and an A6139 as well. So somebody has constructed this movement out of parts. Few concerns here. Going in, you can see that this should not be behind here. It should be on a post that's here, which is gone. So we may have to restake a new part onto this. All right. So this watch has seen an interesting life. I'm not sure what it all means. So this one's a bit of a Franken. You can see your stem is a construction of parts and pieces here. Goodness. I mean, it'll do the trick, but woo, somebody was creative. I don't know if you can see this. So somebody was trying to preserve your hand, and it's been pseudo repaired using some sort of thing. I don't know. You're gonna have to be extra careful with this one. That's why you're missing your paint, is because somebody was doing a lot of semi-professional repairing. Okay, 2.7. You got a 2.6. So that's nice. That's consistent. All right. Not only that, this is broken. Okay, that is the teardown complete. We have our work cut out for us on this one, I think. We're going to have to perhaps talk about condition of some of the components and what's going to be possible with this watch. Certainly you're going to have some issues with resetting of the chronograph. Got some parts to replace and some extra work to do to get this reliable and in a functioning state. But we will get there. Rest assured, it will be as right as I can get it when we're done. All right, we'll be back. We're back. All right. Well, your 6138 jumbo is ready to start reassembly. This has been a watch of springs. It turns out you got a couple springs that are out of sorts. Your your mainspring was actually badly warped, so that one is going to have to come home in a bag. You've got a new one in your barrel. Here's your new hammer reset spring. What else? Oh, you also had a bad spring in one of your pushers, which is in your bag now. Come home bag. We'll review that at the end. Okay, let's get going on getting your movement back together, and we'll start reassembly. Okay, well, there we are, running away. We're gonna put this on the time grapher and give it a nice close look, see how it's doing. And then we're gonna go from there.
All right, we'll be back.
Okay, well, we are doing pretty good as a start. Take a pretty close look at your hairspring here and make sure everything is the way I want it. But we're going to just go ahead and make the adjustments that we need to make. Get your beat error and your rate taken care of here. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, a little too much. Okay. All right. Let's see how that does. All right. We're going to let this get broken in. Let these numbers do their thing for a little while. Keep an eye on your rate, of course, and your amplitude. So far, it's a nice clean signal. That'll clean up considerably as the lubrication kind of makes its way around. And I suspect we'll get quite a bit more out of this as we go. Come on. Okay. There we go. Moving in the right direction. All right, we're going to let this settle in and we'll come back. That's what I thought was going to happen. All right, you are in for a new stem. Okay, so here it is. Here is your very cool, whoop, try and get some light here, 6138 3000, sort of a unique version of the Jumbo. Couple things about the watch. Please don't take anything that I'm saying as a negative about this watch. I love these. I think they're really great. Unfortunately, this example has some issues that are sort of maybe financially insurmountable. That just, you know, sometimes sometimes cosmetics and the look of a watch, can hide some of the issues, and that's particularly the case with this one. Your watch had needs. It was, I think it was one of those ones that was sort of, worked on by somebody that knew what to do to get it to be sold quickly. In particular, the biggest fear I have is this is center sweep hand. I've gotten it back on to where it should be. However, what I will say is that the hand itself is not attached correctly to the pivot, the center pivot of the chronograph hand, or chronograph wheel. And when I say that, what I mean is the following. The wheel itself, and here's an example of a wheel. I don't know if you can see this, but this wheel has an end that is keyed and is protruding. So out of the watch it would protrude. This end right here would protrude out of the front here, and the hand itself keys onto the end of this pivot. Yours is broken. The end of your actual hand is broken, or end of your actual wheel, is broken off. And as a consequence, someone glued a tube onto the center of this hand. Looks like another hand actually was glued on underneath of this hand, and then pushed down onto that tube. That tube was pushed down onto the pivot. Sorry if I'm not being totally clear. So you can imagine there's a tube and your pivot, and it's been pushed in, but there's no key anymore. And so as a consequence, the second you reset this watch from some lower position, the amount of torque required to push that thing around and the rate at which that thing's going to go, I just fear that hand is going to go whoop and come right off. And to be really honest, I would try and save any watch as fast and as well as I can. But I don't have a hand, and that wheel I just held, that chronograph wheel, that's the cost of effectively a watch. I mean, I had to buy a watch, take the movement apart to get that wheel. And so as a consequence, it's prohibitively expensive to correct this issue with this particular watch. Now, it's well aligned, it's proper, all your other hands are working. The only way you could run this, and you'd have to be super careful, is to run the chronograph until you see the hand align back with 12 and then push. Then you can hit the reset to reset your other hands, and there will be no torque applied to this hand. It's doable, and it's certainly something you could do if you really wanted to run the chronograph. But let's be honest, these things are more about their look rather than their function at this point. Not that the watch isn't accurate, but we're not really timing cars at Le Mans with these sorts of stopwatches anymore. And so it's a gamble. It's a crapshoot that I don't think you want to take with this watch. Now, this watch had other needs. Your crown and stem were sort of, I'll show you the components that we've changed out here. The crown and stem of your watch were very, very poorly put together. This is your actual stem. Somebody either broke your stem at some point or it needed a stem, and they've made this little connection nipple that takes some threaded parts of one end of the stem that went into your crown. Let me just let that drop. And glued it to the part of the stem that goes into your movement, and did a sort of, I would call it a really, really poor job. As soon as I went to set the time, to try and test things, it just came right out. So you have a new stem, a proper stem that works. What else? You were missing, so I had to restake a new part onto your bridge. This is your reset hammer for your chronograph assembly, and it had come apart, and this had rusted away, and there was no place to put the spring. And in fact, I think they might have even broken the spring, which was unfortunate. They broke the spring, so this is supposed to be a considerable amount longer, so that it hooks onto that little part that was broken. So I'll bring them both up here together. And so this part here is supposed to latch onto this, is supposed to latch onto this inside the movement. But both of these needed to be replaced, which I've done. And so that's correct. You also had a pusher spring that wasn't actually a spring, it's just a twisted piece of wire. So that's now been done. Here are your seals. Your mainspring, and this may be part and parcel to this process, it is just whacked out. It's a shame because it's got a nice coil to it, but I couldn't put a mainspring back in that was like this, so you have a new mainspring. The other issue, I'm sorry, I mean the hits just keep coming, unfortunately. You bought at Uncle Seiko, and these end links are for 6105, I believe. And yes, they have a nice profile that looks correct for this watch, but it isn't actually correct for this watch. These holes do not align with the positions of these holes. I may be able to even show you if I can get the camera to do the right things. But that tube hole for the actual stem, or the actual end link, spring bar, will never align with the hole that's in the case. And so as a consequence, that end link will not work for this watch. Now, I sent you a link to an online seller that sells a end link that's appropriate for this combination. Now, I was able to get this Seiko branded end link, or clasp, on this Uncle Seiko bracelet, and that required me removing some material here so that it could be done. But it you know, came out nice. That looks really good. So that's good. That's ready to go. I didn't take any of the material off. I figured you'd want to do that yourself. Okay, well, you know, I wish I had better news. I wish this was a watch, because I love the jumbos. I just think they're so neat. They're just so cool in their styling and their size and their proportions. They are a nice watch to have in a collection. But unfortunately, I just think this one has so many issues. We could have really broken the bank trying to get this one, you know, to be the watch you probably wanted it to be. I mean, cosmetically, it cleaned up really nice. I got the case nice and clean. The crystal was actually in really good shape. I don't see anything really wrong with this crystal. It's very good. There's some just minor, very minor edge issues, but nothing substantial. So looks wise, it's great. I went ahead and got your kanji wheel in for the day, so that works just fine. It goes around really nicely. You know, otherwise the watch performs well. It's you know, it's a good 6138 movement now, but unfortunately some of the other pieces are just not where they should be. It's a wearing watch. I wouldn't say it's a functioning watch, not in the way that, you know, was originally intended. It's one that you can certainly wear and it'll look great. I think it'll have good presence. It looks really nice. I would just be super careful about that chronograph hand. It's just not where it should be. And for the investment of finding a hand and finding a chronograph wheel, because it's going to have to come as a set, unfortunately, I just don't think you want to be there. All right. Well, again, thanks so much. I look forward to getting this back to you and getting all your watches, all these great 6138s back in the mail, back to you. Move all your parts. Make sure that everybody's in the shot here. Your bullhead, your panda, and your jumbo. They're all just going to look great. We'll move forward, and I'll be in touch about getting settled up and getting your watches in the mail. All right, well, thank you so much. Thanks for watching.